Morning. Today we're going to tell you why and how to scrape the bottom of your mower deck. It's a pretty easy job. Here are the tools that you're going to need. I use most of the time a 1/2-inch drive impact. If you don't have that, you can use a 1/2-inch drive ratchet. Something that's got a little bit of length to it will make your job easier because you'll have extra leverage on it. If you have a bad boy mower, the bad boy Revolt anyway, mine takes a 15/16 socket to get the blades off. And then one thing that really helps with the process so you can see what you're doing is a magnetic flashlight. Now this is the Icon brand that you can get at Harbor Freight. It's the bendable flashlight, and it's really handy because then you can stick this right to the bottom of your mower deck, bend it to where you need it, and have the light shining up underneath the deck just to help you see what you're doing. And then to scrape everything off, I just use a metal scraper, whatever metal one. This one's a little more thick, so it's a little sturdier. And then one thing that I did to it just to make it work a little bit better is the edge that's on the top here. I kind of ground it down on a belt sander to make it just a little bit finer of an edge. So let's get up underneath there. We'll start with pulling the blades off. That way they're just out of the way. If you need to at that point, you can sharpen your blades. But if they're already sharp, it just gets them out of the way. That way you don't have to work around them. Now the reason why you want to scrape the bottom of your mower deck is as you're mowing, that grass, the weeds, especially the clover will just turn into like a green mush, and it sticks to the bottom of your mower deck as you're mowing. And over time, if you don't scrape that off, one, it will start to grow a bunch of fuzzy mold underneath there. If you leave it underneath there and you go and you're like me, you're mowing multiple properties, you have a higher chance of dropping weed seeds into other people's lawns. So if you mow a lawn that's real weedy and then you go to a nice lawn that doesn't have as many weeds, you're more likely to spread the weeds from one lawn to another. But mainly what I do for maintenance reasons on it is I scrape all that off because it has a lot of moisture in it. And over time, that moisture that's being held up against the bottom side of your deck, or even the top side. I've seen some mowers that either I've had or another guy I was working on his mower, and he never blew off the top of his deck. And over time, that moisture that's being held up onto your deck will start to rust through the deck itself. So you can actually start to get holes and weak spots in your deck. So you want to make sure from time to time, I do it every week, you go through and you scrape the bottom of your mower deck. So I'm going to show you. I have the mower jacked up behind me. If you want to see the mower jack setup that I have, it's more of a lift than a jack. I'll see if I can put a little button up there to direct you to that video that I made just about the setup that I have. So let's get through there. I'll show you both ways, both using the impact and using just a regular ratchet, and just kind of show you the process of how to do it. It's real simple. Sometimes it can take a little bit, but I believe it's a necessary maintenance item to do. All right, so we're underneath the mower. This time it's not all that bad. There's just kind of like a small layer underneath. See, this flashlight here, pretty handy. Take it, it just magnets to the bottom, and then you can direct the light to wherever you need it. But today it's not too bad, especially if you're mowing through wet grass. The grass clippings will build up real thick around the bottom sides of your deck, and that will actually cause a change in the cut quality that you'll notice probably, to where it's just not cutting as well. And the reason that happens is because that grass gets all just plugged up in here, and it affects the airflow that goes on underneath your deck. You see, these are designed in a way to where air can come in, and then you've got the wings on your blades that cause the airflow to go up into it, thus standing the grass up. That way, as the blade comes around, it'll cut it off while it's standing. Well, if you have a bunch of grass clippings up underneath here, it will block the airflow and it won't allow it to work properly. So what I do first is I just get up underneath here and get the blades out of the way. For I use the impact, but I'll show you on the next blade how to do it without an impact. Just get it on there, drop the blade down. If you've got a bad boy, you want it to go on the blade, then the washer, then the bolt, and then just it goes on like that. So you drop the blade out of the way. What I usually do is I screw the bolt back in just a little bit, and that keeps dust and gunk from getting back up inside of here to clog up the threads. So then we'll show you on the next blade how to do it without an impact. So if you don't have an impact to use, what you do is you get you a board or block of wood, and you want to put it in a spot that will block the blade from being able to move. So it's a little bit more pain in the butt process doing it this way, but you get that piece of wood jammed in there and try to get it to where it'll stay while you're doing it. Just kind of hold it in place. Then you get your ratchet on there, or your breaker bar, whatever it is. And then you just crack it loose. Once you've cracked it loose, drop the board out of the way, and then you can spin it off. And then putting it back on is the reverse of that. You'll put the board on the other side of the blade so that you can tighten it. Now there is a specific torque setting for your blade bolts. If you look in your manual, look online, you'll find an actual torque setting for this. In my experience, it's been pretty difficult to get a torque wrench up underneath here and get it torqued on while also keeping that board in place. Usually what I'll do when I'm using my impact is I'll take it and I'll put it on the lowest setting, the lowest torque setting. And then as I spin it on, once the bolt actually bottoms out, I'll just give it a 1, 2, 3, and that's all it needs. You don't have to crank it on there with the full power of your impact. With a 1/2 inch impact anyway, that thing will go up to like 1,100 foot-pounds. But let me get this other blade out of the way, and then we'll get going with scraping. Now that the blades are out of the way, you can work without having to work around all of the blades or worry about bumping up against it to cutting your hands and whatnot. So during this process, I do wear gloves, just some cheaper gloves I get from Harbor Freight. There's a lot of stuff underneath the deck here that I don't really want on my hands. I mow through a lot of properties that have dog crap in them, and if I run through some poison ivy or something, I don't really want that getting all over my hands. So just take your scraper, and I just start to scraping them off. Now there are going to be some bolts that you'll find that you've got to work around, but you just keep on scraping and getting all of this built up clippings off until it's nice and, well, clean as you can get it. See, there's this thin layer of stuff that I'm just not really going to worry about. It's more of the built up chunks that I want to get off. I'll scrape as much as I can, but usually I don't get it spotless. But that will free up the space to where the air can flow underneath your deck properly so that you get the best cut quality possible. And then it also keeps it, keeps that moisture off of your deck. So while it's sitting around, this can all, whatever's left can dry That way it's not just holding moisture up against the deck. So I'll get this deck scraped and I'll pick y'all up once I get it all done. Oh, and then going through and doing this process every week, it also allows you to make sure that there's nothing built up around your blades, because a lot of times I'll get up underneath here to scrape it out and I'll notice that between the blade and the spindle, there's like a whole bunch of either fishing line or the what's that stuff, that plastic netting that they use for straw blankets, or that's in sod, or if you run over a string or something, it can get all tangled around here. So whenever you lift up the mower to scrape the deck or change your blades, it's a good time to drop the blade, get all of that stuff untangled and pulled off before you put the blade back on. So just good maintenance things to do to make your machine last as long as possible, because these machines are way too expensive to just neglect. So you want to take good care of them and do all the proper maintenance. That way they last you as long as possible and make you as much money as they can. So I got as much of it as I could scraped off. For the big chunks and all, it just falls underneath. And then before you put your mower away, well, after you put your mower away, get it out of the way, I just sweep all that up, throw it in the trash can. So this is a good time, since your blades are already off, to either go over and sharpen them. These blades are still good. And then back your bolt out. And for the bad boys, get your blade fixed the right way. Make sure that your washer is on that bolt. Slide it through. Spin it in by hand. I'll do that for all three. Now, I'm not going to show you how to torque these on with the torque wrench, because it's a rather big pain in the butt, I believe, to get under here with all of that. But just make sure that your blades are facing the right direction. You want the wings facing up. You don't want them facing down, because that's upside down and that's not going to do you any good. You want to get them lined up by hand, because if you try to put the nut or the bolt in a torque or an impact and then zip them on, if you cross thread it, you're going to jack it all up. So always start your bolts by hand. I put it forward. It's on the lowest torque setting, and I just kind of zip it up until it bottoms out nice and easy, and then I just, like I said before, I just 1, 2, 3, and that's all it needs. See, it bottomed out. That's all it needs right there. I don't want to kill it and over tighten it, because I don't want to mess up the bearings or anything that's going on up in this area. So I hope this video was helpful. It's a pretty easy process to do. Gives you better cut quality, will make your mower deck last longer, and getting up underneath your mower gives you a chance to find any issues that need to be fixed, whether it's a spindle that's going bad, or a blade that's all jacked up, needs to be resharpened or replaced. Just makes everything last longer. If you want to know about the setup that I have for lifting the mowers up with the chain hoist, I have another video. You can go check that out. It explains exactly what I use and how I rigged it up. Very helpful setup to where I can get up underneath there without having to work around a big jack and just having that take up space in the garage when I'm not using it. Yeah, it's pretty simple. Go ahead and get it done, and we'll see you on the next one. Y'all be good.